So I'm going to put a pot of beans on the stove here. A lot of times I use my mom's Dutch oven, this nice crusette pan, and it is nice to do beans in it because it holds the heat. The iron holds the heat, the enamelware so nicely, but I don't always use that, and I'm just going to use this kettle today. And here's my, I've got my garbanzos in here. I think I could use them all. Oh, gonna have to buy some more garbanzos. I remember when I was out living on Hopi, and I saw a Hopi woman sitting in the doorway of her house one day with a big sifter basket from Hopi land, and she was just going through some pinto beans. And I thought it was so picturesque, and I didn't cook beans at that point. But what she was doing was, of course, looking for any moldy or crummy beans before she put her beans on the stove. And I sort of did it. Here's one that's maybe a little weird. I'll pick that out, and another one. But basically just got my beans in the pan. And some water. Put lots of water in there because, of course, beans are dry and they're going to absorb the water. I know what you're thinking now. How long do we soak the beans? You know, soak the beans or not soak the beans, it just depends on my time frame. And the principle is, of course, if you soak them in cold water for overnight first, then you use less fuel on the stove because the beans have already absorbed and softened some. So economically and environmentally, it's better to soak beans. And then there are all other kinds of considerations that I won't go into now. But I think for today, and oh, I'll put a little salt in. It's nice to use salt at the beginning of cooking. And I could even do an onion. Most of the time, you know what, I'm too darn lazy to do an onion. But they really do, when you feel like it, they really do add a sweetness to the kettle. And certainly that's a lovely thing to do. But not on the Programorama today. As far as how long to cook them, it depends on how fresh your beans are or how old your beans are. If you've got old beans, they take longer. Fresh beans cook in a shorter amount of time. As a rule, what I've found is that these chickpeas take longer than a pinto bean or a black bean. So maybe 2 or 3 hours, something like that, on these, because they are more of a pea. They actually call them a chickpea rather than a garbanzo bean in the Middle East. So 2 or 3 hours. And you know, it's just lovely to have a pot of beans on the stove on a Sunday afternoon. The smell, especially if you've added an onion, gets even more enticing. And people walk into your kitchen and go, "Smells good in here." Put this here. So I've got a pot of cooked beans here, and I'm going to freeze some up so that don't want to keep out all of the beans, so I won't eat them that fast. Because one thing that sold me on eating more legumes and beans is the idea that I can just put a few in with various dishes. So it's not a matter of eating a big bowl of chili beans. I don't really like beans enough to eat them in massive quantities. So, but this is how the French do. They have a few white beans in with a larger dish, and like it's really quite pleasant to enjoy some legumes in that situation. So into the freezer they go, and spare myself the expense of canned beans. I think the last time I bought a can of organic beans, it was a couple dollars. And over in the bulk bins, I think you can get a pound of the same organic beans for a couple dollars, or actually $1.50. So it's a better deal.